Good morning and welcome to a special meeting of the Milton Select Board on November 17th, 2023. We have one item on the agenda this morning. However, we have had a suggestion from a member that we have additional citizen speak in addition to the citizen speak that we had on Tuesday night. We don't typically have citizen speak in these special meetings. We don't have it on the agenda. And we are under a tight time constraint with at least two of our members. So I have the following suggestion. Perhaps what we can do is take up the item, and then to the extent that the members are available after that, we can consider whether to have some additional citizen speak in addition to what we've had previously in the emails, and then citizen speak on November 28th. Ms. Musto.
Thank you. I think it's important because I believe we have a lot of people on this particular Zoom webinar, and I think it's important that we hear their voices. So in whatever fashion you want to do it, I do think it's important. Thank you.
All right, so if there's no objection, then we'll, Mr. Zoll.
No objection from my side either. I agree. I like the order of taking care of the business first and then citizen speak. I do have a hard stop at noon, but I think we should be able to get the business done and hear from folks.
All right, and we do have at least one other member with a time constraint as well. So if there's no objection, we'll proceed with the order of business, taking up the item and then considering a citizen speak period after that. So item 2 is discussion approval, request to place Palestinian flag in the Baron Hugo gazebo alongside the Israeli flag, reconsideration for flag placement and related statement by the select board. And Mr. Wells is here. Mr. Wells?
Good morning. I'm on my phone, Michael, so I'm just gonna stay off camera, and I'm really in a tight schedule here.
I understand, Richard. And we just started, and we indicated that we'll take up the item. We've had a request for citizen speak, but we'll take up that after we can take up the item, given the tight time frame. So item 2 is the posted agenda item. Comments on item 2. Ms. Musto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a statement I would like to raise. I would like to start by saying thank you to everybody that is attending this meeting via Zoom. And I really appreciate that everybody has an interest in this. I want to take this time to reflect on how we got here, hurriedly holding a Zoom-only meeting at 11:15 in the morning on a Friday. We've heard it before, but in the spirit of never forget, I will remind my colleagues and the citizens, on October 7th, Hamas committed an act of mass murder of Jews unprecedented since the Holocaust. These individuals, ranging in age from babies to Holocaust survivors, were not killed by some mere rogue terrorist group. No, they were killed and kidnapped and raped and burned and brutalized and taken hostage by the soldiers of the democratically elected government of Gaza, Hamas. They were attacked because they were Jews. In the aftermath of Hamas committing this heinous act, we placed the Israeli flag in the town gazebo as a gesture of how we as a community stand with our Jewish neighbors after this atrocity. When this action was taken, we decided that the flag would be removed at the end of this month. In the subsequent weeks, here is what we've seen take place. We saw demonstrations on October 8th, just one day after the massacre, where protesters were waving the Palestinian flag and praising the attacks, chanting, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," while also wielding signs with swastikas and saying the attacks were justified. We've seen protests and demonstrations all over the globe in the days after the attacks, waving the Palestinian flag and calling for martyrdom. UCLA students chanted for Intifada and waving the Palestinian flag, behavior we have seen at many other schools. In Sydney, Australia, protesters chanted "Gas the Jews" while waving that Palestinian flag. There's a massive rise in anti-Semitism, and Jews are feeling unsafe in universities. I had hoped that my colleagues would understand, even though they are not Jewish as I am, that raising the flag would prove so hurtful to the Jewish members of our community. How did we go from almost getting the flag approved during Tuesday night's select board meeting to rushing to have a Friday morning emergency meeting today. Here is how. On Tuesday, one of my fellow board members made a motion to approve raising the Palestinian flag that very night. My other colleagues were ready to support this motion. However, because it was not listed as an agenda item ahead of time, we technically could not take such a vote on Tuesday, which is why we are here today. In the meantime, the citizens made their voices heard. They emailed me and my colleagues and made it abundantly clear how hurtful raising that flag would be. And I'd like to go forward and tell you some of the things that we've heard. We heard the flag is a rally cry to anti-Semitism. We are a no place for hate community, and that bending to both sides' narratives has caused a skyrocket in anti-Semitism. On October 8th in New York, people were in the streets of New York City with Palestinian flags calling death to the Jews. The police had to provide enhanced security for Jewish businesses in the area. Outrage and disgust that we would even consider raising a Palestinian flag. The Palestinian flag was first adopted by the PLO. Their charter was to eliminate Israel, and this flag has always been intrinsically tied to the destruction of Israel and its people. Palestine is a governing body and is not even recognized as a nation by the United States, nor does it have full approval of the UN. Support of this flag is to support modern day and anti-Semitism. Flying the Palestinian flag and supporting the innocent people of Gaza are mutually exclusive. Displaying the flag is not showing support for Palestine, but showing that anti-Semitism is supported in Milton. We all know this is not just a flag, but a rallying call for anti-Semitism and another way to alienate and intimidate our Jewish community in Milton. A common theme was the shock, horror, outrage, disgust expressed by residents. Displaying this flag is not showing support for the civilians that reside in Gaza or the Muslim community. It is showing that you support modern day anti-Semitism, terrorism, and genocide. Even as we sit here, we have a draft statement that leaves open the possibility of raising the Palestinian flag in the future. This statement was drafted and sent to the board at 5 p.m. yesterday, and I believe at 11 o'clock we got a revised statement that literally just came in at 11 a.m. I'm unsure who drafted it, but the original statement this board issued after October 7th was drafted by myself and Mr. Zoll, and that was it was approved unanimously. Thank you. We are experiencing heightened tensions as a community. I'm all for bringing people of different backgrounds and faiths together in good faith to learn from one another and hear each other's perspectives. I commend the interfaith clergy for belatedly advocating for this, and they are obviously welcome to put that together. But I think that something else that is apparent from this entire situation is that maybe the select board does more harm than good by getting involved in geopolitics, as this board has attempted to do this week. I'm a nurse practitioner and work with colleagues and assist patients of all faiths and backgrounds. Given my background, I'm especially sensitive to the bloodshed and innocent lives lost. An innocent life lost is an innocent life lost, no matter their faith, background, or religion. War is hell. We Jews say a prayer, may there be war no more. To our Muslim community, you belong, and we denounce all forms of hatred, including Islamophobia. To the Jewish community, we denounce all forms of anti-Semitism. Sadly, we live in a world where bad people with bad intentions seek to do harm. We saw that on October 7th. I am not a geopolitical expert, nor my colleagues. We can acknowledge and mourn for all lives lost. As a diverse community, I love that we have people of all perspectives. Will further divide a wonderful community. In conclusion, there's been a push by many residents to revamp our town gazebo flag policy and our flag policy in general. And I would be supportive of taking a look at this. The Israeli flag is slated to come down at the end of this month. Again, thank you to the residents who drew attention to the matter before us. And in that spirit, I'd encourage the citizens to watch more of our meetings and see how this board makes decisions that affect their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand, and I mean, everyone knows my background, so I'm not going to get into that. And clearly, the sanctity of human life is something that I always talk about. The Milton, I have many friends in the Jewish community. The rabbi is a dear friend, and I deplore terrorism of any type, and I always have, and I've spoken about this many times and will continue to do so. I did bring up the idea of posting the Palestinian flag when the Milton Muslims group came before us. I understand their concerns, but as I said the other day, Israel is at war, and they're at war against terrorism. I thought about this a great deal. I talked to several of my friends in the Milton Muslims group there yesterday, and really one of the things that they expressed to me is really they're trying to make a voice for humanity, and I think I talk about this a lot in a lot of different ways. So if you would consider this, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to table any decision today and ask that we leave our standing initiative of the Israeli flag flying till the 30th of November in place, and that I thought of a humanity. There is no such thing as a humanity flag, but for the month of December, we attach to the gazebo simple flag that is often seen flown throughout this community that harbors one word, peace, and that we allow that to remain flying there for the remainder of the year. And if someone would consider seconding that, I think that is something that might be amenable and may soothe many of the feelings of the residents that are clearly so in tune to this situation at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I think the motion was to table any action.
Right, any recommendation, right. Any action today, any statements, just table any decisions at this point, and let's leave in place the flag flying. And then at our meeting on the 14th, because we meet one more time before the 30th, if we have to vote on it, that we just simply hang a flag with the word peace from our gazebo for the month of December. And if someone, that's the most human gesture I could think of. I've talked to several about it. I've thought about it all night, and I think it might be something that I think we all could agree would be a very human gesture at this point in history.
And so you suggesting, Mr. Wells, that we take it up on the 14th of December? We have a meeting on the 28th of November.
That's what I mean. Yeah, whenever our next, I think we have, don't we have one more meeting in November?
Yes, on the 28th.
Yeah, so we leave in place what we have. We table anything. I don't think we need to say anything else at this point. I think that leave this in place, and on the 1st of we vote on the 28th, and the 1st of December we hang a flag of peace, and we keep it there for the month of December. And I just, that's my thought. I'm not going to read any statements. I just thought about this all night and sleep all night. I've really given this a lot of thought. I suggested it to Mr. Milano this morning, and I'm hoping that my colleagues will support this and think about doing this.
I will second it for discussion purposes, please.
Make your count in a capital and look like a vitamin.
Motion's been made and seconded, Mr. Zoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to speak to the motion at the moment. Actually, I might at the end of my remarks, but I have some prepared remarks, which I think are important to read. In the aftermath of the terrible events of October 7th, one of the first things I did in my capacity as a member of the Milton Select Board was to reach out to Rabbi Benjamin of Temple Beth Shalom in the Blue Hills, someone I got to know during the course of my campaign and who I now consider a friend, to offer my deepest sympathies, to inquire about his family, and to pledge my support to do whatever small thing we could do in Milton to raise our voice in outrage at the terrorist attack. The unanimously passed motion, Roxanne generously described it as co-authored by the two of us. She did the most of the work. I just thought it looked very good. But the unanimously passed motion to raise the Israel flag at the gazebo in support of the victims and the hostages that continue to be held was the right thing to do, particularly in the face of the rising anti-Semitism that was sweeping the country and the globe. Anyone who has listened to select board meetings over the last several months prior to October 7th knows that I've been speaking out regularly against anti-Semitism, specifically racism more broadly. When the Milton Muslim neighbors came to me to request advice on how they might learn how to hang a Palestinian flag next to the Israeli flag on the gazebo to show support for Muslim neighbors and others who are grieving their own losses with a letter of support from the rabbi, I believed, perhaps naively, that this could be a moment of transcendence. There was no equivocation in their request, which acknowledged the grief and suffering of the victims of the terrorist attacks. I have always believed in dialogue and leading with love for my neighbors, regardless of race, creed, color, sexual orientation, or gender identity. But I also must acknowledge that, while not in Milton, the vicious acts of anti-Semitism that have been and continue to be perpetrated under the Palestinian flag. The Milton Select Board, as I said on Tuesday, must always first consider how to advance the happiness and peace of our town without damaging others. When we hung the Israeli flag, most people were simply unaware, and others saw it but had not read our statement. In fact, I spoke with a Milton resident this morning who was opposed to the Palestinian flag being hung and was unaware that there was an Israeli flag already on the gazebo. As much as we'd like to think that folks listen to the select board, read our statements, that simply doesn't happen except in moments like this. And in these raw and bitter times, flags cannot convey the same nuance as a conversation with your neighbor. So I would ask that, rather than raise the second flag, we vote to approve the statement, that we continue to work towards a community forum, and that we tell our Jewish, Muslim, and other Milton residents that we love them, we hear them, and we will continue to try to do our best by them in our work here on the select board and through our lives in this town. That was my statement, and to the motion of Member Wells, who I know has spent a lot of time thinking about this, I would only add that I believe that we have a great statement in front of us. I've spoken with members of the Jewish and Muslim communities and others about the concept of the statement, which I did not draft. And I believe that that's the right path forward. And I would add that a flag that says peace without context can be taken in many, many different ways. As long as Hamas has continued to vow to wipe out Israel, can there be peace? As long as hostages are held in tunnels beneath hospitals, can there be peace? A hope for peace without consideration of what a just and lasting peace might look like. What I spoke about on Tuesday, a peace that begins the end to a war. Simply saying peace is going to be a loaded term, and I worry that it would be misconstrued, and as many other flags have been misconstrued on the gazebo. So I believe that the right course of action will be to adopt the motion, to adopt the statement, and move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Zoll. Ms. Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question, and it's actually in relation to our town and not what's happening in the Middle East. I'm wondering if it's possible that we could, given how much this has hurt our neighbors, our Muslim neighbors in town, given how much everyone is in pain around this, and it is a very hot topic that honestly I don't have an answer to. You know, I as many of you know, I'm in law school right now, and we are talking about it on many levels. And the main level that we're discussing it is in regards to the Constitution, because I'm in constitutional law right now. And I do love our Constitution, because the only people that can make decisions about foreign policy is the president. And we're just a little town of 28,000 people. And so I'm wondering if it's possible that we could just take down the Israeli flag that's hanging right now, that has caused such a division in our community. I know it was raised, I voted to raise it, and I still support that decision in response to the horrible terrorist attacks, to show my neighbors that I absolutely stand by them. But what is striking me is that the rabbi, I believe we only have one temple in town, and the rabbi of that temple on Tuesday night sent a statement saying that he supported raising the Palestinian flag. And that has caused such an outcry with our neighbors, that I'm just wondering if the best thing for us to do right now is to take down the flags, take a minute to come together and learn about each other's communities and places that they're coming from. For example, I got a lot of emails telling me that the Palestinian flag is the flag of Hamas. It is not. It is not. It is not. A simple Google search will tell you what the flag of Hamas is. I understand. I read all about last night. I read all about the PLO. I read all about how it came to be, how the Palestinian flag was made, and the colors it represents. I read all about that. But the one thing that I've realized in the last few days is that people are the words that people are saying in their emails to me makes it seem like that all Palestinians are in favor of what Hamas is doing. And I think that that's wrong. And I think that it's wrong that we are lumping any group together, to say that everyone feels this way. They don't. And I know that we mentioned the community group that I believe it is the Milton Interfaith folks that are doing that. I really am hoping that maybe we set a night ourselves as the select board where we take the Israeli flag down and we maybe have a candlelight vigil for all innocent lives lost. And it has been a hard year for everybody, and this is tearing our community apart. And I don't see an easy solution, because honestly, it's not my job to make any types of foreign policy decisions. My job is to represent all of my neighbors, which my colleague says constantly. And this has really got me upset. I'm sorry. But I think that the only thing we can do now is to say that we've honored our Jewish neighbors, and we stand by them. And the terrorist attack was awful, but I'm also standing with my Muslim neighbors and saying that the lives that are being lost on their side is also horrible. And so I'm just wondering if we can all just take a minute and try and come together as a community around this, instead of standing in our positions of I don't know, foreign policy. I don't even know. So Mr. Chair, that's where I'm at. I'm at a place where I really think the flag needs to come down. I think we need to come together. And I would support, I know the Thanksgiving holiday is next week, but if we could come together and just have a moment of peace with each other. I mean, Mr. Zoll, I hear you when peace can be interpreted in many different ways, but I actually think, for me, the word peace means peace. And I like what Richard's saying about, what Mr. Wells is saying about hanging that flag. That's where I'm at, Mr. Chair. And now I know I've made people upset, and I'm sorry. I did not mean to do that. This is a really loaded thing. And I hope that we can show some honor and some compassion for everyone in our town. That's it. I'm sorry. I know I've made everybody mad. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, if you're calling on one of us to speak, you're muted, so we can't hear you.
I was muted. I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Bradley, Mr. Zoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank Ms. Bradley for her very thoughtful comments. I want to make it clear that obviously peace is a goal that we should all be working towards. I think it's the just and lasting peace is the key component there. I think that it might be helpful, Mr. Chair, because, and I alluded to this earlier in my statement, probably most people who have tuned in are not aware about a draft statement. They may not even be aware of the timeline. And I think it would probably be a good idea for you to provide. I can't do it because I'm calling from my phone, and I can't, read from my phone and talking to my phone at the same time. But if maybe you might be in a position to read the statement so that the folks understand what we're discussing, and then maybe go through the timeline of it. Thank you. That's just a request.
Sure, I can do that. Ms. Musto, do you want me to do that before you comment? Is that, So I can go ahead, I'll go ahead and do that before you comment. Just to on the statement, it was something that I drafted and that has been reviewed and commented on by both our Rabbi Alfred Benjamin of the Congregation Beth Shalom, and the head of our Milton Interfaith Clergy Association, Reverend Lisa Ward. And it reads as follows: the purpose of our town government is to respond to the needs of our residents. In the immediate aftermath of the terror perpetrated on Israeli citizens and international workers by Hamas on October 7, we sought to provide support for our Jewish neighbors affected by that heinous act, including by the symbolic act of flying the Israeli flag at the Baron Hugo gazebo, in the same location where, for several months last year, we hung the Ukrainian flag. In the ensuing weeks, it has become clear that our Muslim and Palestinian friends are suffering as well from the ongoing violence in the region. We now have a request to hang the Palestinian flag in the Baron Hugo gazebo. It seems apparent, however, that to hang the two flags together without context could cause more harm than good in our community. As we have heard from our interfaith leaders in this community, now is the time for more, to help people look forward to a shared vision of a hoped-for future. To that end, rather than to continue the symbolic act of hanging any flag in the gazebo, we want to support all our residents by facilitating a thoughtful conversation in our community on how we can work together in positive and constructive ways. Our goal is to schedule a community forum led by the Milton Interfaith Clergy Association and Milton Muslim neighbors to provide more inclusive and tangible support for all those affected by the horrors going on now in the Middle East. And that is a statement that we have. I have a few other things I could add, but Ms. Musto, you took it here now. Do you want to go before Mr. Wells?
You can let Mr. Wells go and then I'll go after him. That's fine.
Sure, Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm out of time. And so I just leave with this. And first, I mean, look at everyone cares about this. Everyone's comments. Aaron, no one's mad at you. You're speaking from that. This is about humanity. The one thing that none of us get a chance in this world to do, there's no second chance at life. Whether you take it by your own, you lose it, whether you're an innocent victim, whether you die asleep in your own bed, you only get to live this world once. It's incumbent upon us to make the most of it. Unfortunately, what happened on October 7th is a waste, and it continues to be a waste of innocent lives. I would vote no this is just a time where less is more to me. Like, the greatest gift I've had in the 40 years I've served this town is the relationship with the people. And one of the things, Michael, that's left out of the statement is, okay, the rabbi who I love is in it, and Mike is in it, nothing from Milton Muslims, and they are hurting. Most of them aren't even Palestinian. They're Muslim. They're from other countries, Muslim nations. And part of the whole thing of the Muslim faith is peace and love, same as Christianity and Judaism. So, if I have to leave now, I don't think we should be rushing something like this on Friday at noon. That's why I picked something so simple. If you push the motion forward, I'm going to vote no because it's not inclusive. I think less is more, And I hear Mr. Zoll on the word peace. Of course we want peace. I've seen enough horror and death in my life that I don't sleep some nights because of the things that I've seen in my life. But it was the most human word I could think of. It says it loud and clear without anything else. And so I hope that you'll support my motion. If you do, I would be a yes vote on that, but I would be a no vote. And unfortunately,
Thank
all right?
you, Mr. Milton. And I know you have to leave, maybe the first part of your motion, just tabling any action at this point, given the time constraints around the fact that, you know, this is a lot to take in, and maybe it's something that we need to table and take up later. Given the fact you have to leave. Ms. Musto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we had voted unanimously to put up the Israeli flag, we had also at the same time talked about taking it down the end of the month and putting up our American flag. So I would still be supportive of that and supportive of some kind of a forum as well. As far as the statement, honestly, I need to really delve into it a little bit. We just got it at 5 and we got some kind of a revision literally at 11 a.m. And I think, to me, I think we need to make sure we get it right. So to me, I'd really like a chance to look at that a little bit more. And I'm in favor of our previous vote and also holding a forum, well, having the interfaith clergy hold a forum on that to support all of the neighbors. Thank you.
And just so we're clear, the motion before, when we put up the Israeli flag, that's in the gazebo. The American flag has its place on our flagpole. We don't typically have something there other than holiday decorations during holidays and other things. So I think, just to clarify, the American flag is where it is. It's proudly flying on the flagpole where it always is. This is just a separate thing that we did to support our neighbors who were hurting at the time. Other comments or questions? You know, I will add just a few things. You know, to some of what was in the statement. You know, members of this board on the Sabbath after the terror that was perpetrated on Israeli citizens and by Hamas on October 7th. Members of this board attended a community event at our local temple, and a couple of us spoke, and as did a member of the local Milton Muslim Neighbors Group. I think it's fair to say that we felt the pain that was suffered by residents in our community as a result of that heinous attack. And we sought to provide some support, some solidarity for our residents by this symbolic act of putting up the Israeli flag. And you know, in the ensuing weeks, it became clear that there was a lot more pain, and pain felt by our Muslim and Palestinian friends as well. And then we had the request on Tuesday from our Milton Muslims group, and it was a request, as Mr. Zoll pointed out, it was a request that was strongly supported by the rabbi of our local temple, for whom I have great respect and with whom I've worked and had a long-standing relationship. And while the symbol of what we did, I believe, was important, and symbols are important and can be powerful, sometimes symbols overtake the substance. Sometimes symbols can impede dialogue and impair understanding. Sometimes symbols can cause people to retreat to their respective corners and be cemented in their perspectives and churn out their dueling change.org petitions and email blasts with no opportunity for dialogue and no chance for understanding. And I fear that that's what's happened here. And so I think to hang the two flags together certainly, and even to continue our efforts to continue to hang the flag there. I feel that that's going to cause more harm than good in our community. I think it's time for us to move past the symbols. I think it's time, as some have suggested, for dialogue, and it's time for us to seek greater understanding. And we did have a discussion on Tuesday, and I hope that we will respond to the needs of our residents by facilitating that dialogue and the chance for greater understanding, and having our Milton Interfaith Clergy Association and our Milton Muslim neighbors and our our friends at Milton for Peace, provide more inclusive and tangible support for all those who are hurting and have been affected by the terror in the Middle East. And having said that, I understand my colleagues who may need more time on this. It is something that came up Tuesday. There is a lot to it, and it may be the case that we do need more time to consider this. Mr. Zoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make a quick correction. I think Mr. Wells has left us, but he had said that in the statement there is no reference to the Milton Muslim neighbors, and I just want to point out that there is, that we're actually specifically calling on the Milton Muslim neighbors to help in the holding of a dialogue. To me, I think and I said this earlier in my statement, the ability to get Milton folks together to have a civil discussion where we really focus on each other and make sure that we're checking in on each other and how everyone's doing in this extraordinarily difficult time is paramount. And I believe that this statement, again, I didn't draft it, and I think but I think it does a good job of articulating what you've just said. And I would urge us to pass that statement, because I do believe that it reaches out to all folks. It's been looked at by apparently by both Rabbi as well as Reverend Ward, who's the chair of the Milton Interfaith Clergy Association. I think that we can kind of put our stake in the ground to say that we stand for community coming together and talking about tough issues. I think that I agree with Ms. Musto that we need to probably revisit the general policy of hanging flags, and I think we could probably do that after town meeting. I don't think there's going to be anything that comes up. I mean, who knows? But I think between now and the new year, there's probably very little chance that we'll have another meeting to discuss hanging another flag. But I just want to say I've spoken with folks on, and I don't even want to say both sides of this issue, because that's part of the problem. There's so many different sides to the story, and I think that's part of the problem of hanging flags, is that it simplifies what is really complicated issue. And so I support the statement. I think that procedurally we probably have to vote on Mr. Wells's motion, but I'd like us to do that and then get to the main motion. Thank you.
Well, yes, the proponent of the motion has left, so it seems to me if the second wants to table, we could table the motion. Well, to the extent I think there might be consensus on tabling the issue. I'm not sure there's consensus on the idea of hanging a peace flag in the gazebo in December. And there may be logistical issues, because usually we have holiday decorations in the gazebo. But Ms. Musto, you were the second of the motion. The motion was to table consideration of this, and then to hang the flag, or to hang the flag of peace in December. I'm thinking there may at the very least be support for tabling this for now. Although Mr. Zoll suggested we should move forward with the statement, but I must say I'm sympathetic with the idea that this is, we are moving quickly here since Tuesday, and if we need more time, then we need more time. So, Ms. Musto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given that I'm fully supportive of doing a statement, however, in this case, getting the statement as late as we did you know, and trying to make sure it is done well. I'm not saying whether it's not or it is. I want to have a chance to an opportunity to look at that. I do want to state one thing though. We did receive quite a few emails. I'm sure you all got the same ones I did. And I think we've got to be careful with saying that the viewpoint of somebody in our clergy represents all the Jewish people in Milton, for instance. There were many that did not have the same viewpoint of hanging the two flags together at this time, as well as many rabbis would not have that opinion. So I think we have to tread cautiously with that. I also think, I know Ms. Bradley was talking about some of the geopolitical things. And I think, you know, talking about, for instance, Hamas and you know, their flag and so forth. But, you know, if you're going to go down that path, there is a lot of evidence out there that's, you know, shows, for instance, that, you know, after 10/7, there was a lot of support in that area of people that thought it was a good thing. I have some numbers, I'm not going to spew them out, but the point is that it is a complex issue, and I don't know that we should necessarily be weighing in it. And I do agree with Mr. Zoll that, you know, a forum is always a great thing to try to bring the community together. As far as putting any other flag up at this point in the gazebo, I would not support that at this point. I think there's a lot going on here, and as we've seen, there are a lot of feelings about this. There are a lot of people that feel that the flag, you know, the Palestinian flag does represent certain things. And I think that in the spirit of including all of our neighbors and respecting everybody, I think that at this point, we should have a chance to look at the statement and go from there. Thank you.
So I know I know another of our members may be hitting a deadline here, and I am myself, I'm sympathetic to the idea that maybe it's better not to move forward on anything absent having all of our members available. Mr. Wells had to leave. And so maybe it's better to take no action at this time, given the short time frame, the desire for members to look more in depth at a proposed statement and to consider things a little bit more at length. Ms. Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, I'm just concerned that if we continue to leave the Israeli flag up, it will continue to divide our community while we take the time to think this through. Because the next time we meet is the 28th of November, which leaves 2 more days in the month before the flag's supposed to come down anyways. So I guess, to me, we can take as much time as we think we need, we want, whatever. My concern is that by continuing to have the flag in our gazebo, it will continue to divide our community. And I don't think that anybody on our board wants that. All I hear from people is that we want to bring folks together. And I think that right now we have honored what our intent was by raising the flag. And I think that at this junction, I think the wisest thing for us to do would be to take the flag down and think about the statement that came out, which, by the way, I think the statement is great. I have no issues with the statement, the proposed statement. But I just think that right now, an action that we can take is to try and calm the waters of our neighbors. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley. Though our next scheduled meeting is on the 28th, we could, if it's important, and as a compromise, meet before that and try to have another meeting and give people a little bit more time to consider this. We could meet early next week, as early as probably Tuesday. Yes, if we post something now, we could meet on Tuesday. So that's one suggestion in order to hopefully meet the needs of all the members here. Mr. Zoll and then Ms. Musto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a quick thought, and again, I'm a little past time, but I'm making time trying to stay available. I tend to agree with Ms. Bradley that our goal here should be to create unity and not division. I've stated earlier, and I don't feel like I need to reiterate the fact that flags mean different things to different people. I believe that we've done a great job of recognizing the victims of the terror attacks to the extent that we can. I believe that the statement that we have, which is all of 2 paragraphs long, that we received, yesterday, and we've had, I think, it doesn't take me that long to read that many words, and the edits, that we got at 11, I looked at quickly and they were fine. So, I rather than try to hold another Zoom meeting, which is A, problematic to schedule, and B, just problematic because we're not sitting with each other and talking about these issues face to face. I would prefer that we pass the statement now, which I believe would, sort of call on us to, to have no flags at the gazebo going forward, and which would sort of light a fire under the idea that we would get this community forum happening, which I think is the most important thing. So to Ms. Bradley's point, I think that we should be working for consensus in our community, that we should be working for bringing people together. We should be working to make sure that the Muslim Milton neighbors and the Jewish Milton neighbors and everyone else feels listened to and heard. And, I think that while the flag was originally placed up in the best of intentions, and I challenge anyone to look at the select board statement that we passed when we put that flag up and find issue with it. I would be in favor of passing this statement now so that we can start to move forward in building a community forum that will help us collectively as Milton residents begin to learn from each other, hear each other, and support each other. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to say any more until we're ready to vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Zoll. Ms. Musto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hear what the other members are saying. However, when you get something at 5 o'clock on one day and now an update at 11, which our meeting's at 11:15, it feels like we're being rushed to do something. And I do want a statement, but I want a good statement. And honestly, I think it's better to get the good statement up there. And I think it's not fair. We rushed to have the meeting. Now we're rushing out a statement in the 9th hour with an edit at 11 a.m. for an 11:15 meeting. And the other thing I would want to ask about is anything with taking the flag down. I'm wondering if that's actually even allowed under this agenda item that we have. Given that the original agenda came out on 2 days, it met the 48 hours, but the additional language in it was added at 9 a.m. or 9:20 a.m. yesterday. Thank you. So process. Thank you.
The process-wise, town council has said that is within the scope and that it is allowed. So it is allowable according to town council. So, however, I am sympathetic to the idea, and I would ask my colleagues if we could try to schedule something on Tuesday in order to meet Ms. Musto's concern about being rushed and taking time to consider a statement. I'm sympathetic to that. Ms. Musto. Oh, you're on mute, Roxanne. You're on mute, Roxanne.
Thank you. Just remember that Tuesday is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving too. So,
I understand.
and we meet the following Tuesday.
I understand,
Yep.
but we're trying to broker a compromise here, Roxanne. We have people who want to take action immediately, and we have some people who want some more time. So I'm trying to go in the middle here and see if we can't give some people a little more time at the same time, respecting the people who want to move immediately.
Okay, thank you.
So, is there support for that idea, and is there availability for that possibility? Mr. Zoll.
I will try my best to make it happen. I can't promise that I can participate. I'm like everybody else because it's a short work week next week. My Tuesday is pretty packed, but I will try.
Tuesday, yeah, perhaps Tuesday night. Ms. Bradley.
Tuesday is really packed for me, work-wise, the job that I do, get paid for. So, I mean, I can, like Mr. Zoll, I can try and make it work, but
Is Wednesday better for people? No, Roxanne is shaking your head no. So,
Monday is better.
look, Monday, we don't have time to post. We have to have 48 hours in advance in order to post. Roxanne, are you available for something on Tuesday? Ben and Aaron said that they would try to do it.
Are you thinking Tuesday during the day or Tuesday evening Zoom, or what are you thinking?
I'm not thinking, I'm just suggesting. So I don't, whatever you can, whatever you can do, whatever you can do. I try not to think too much in this role.
I could probably make something work on Tuesday.
All right, Mr. Zoll.
If we could do like a 5 p.m. maybe, or a 5:30 p.m. before, dinner time, but after work hours, that might be a good time. Might also
All
allow
right.
more members to, or more Milton residents to join.
All right, so let's try for that. And so in terms of, we do have a motion on the floor. Ms. Musto, I think is the second. I would ask if you would withdraw the motion, which is the motion to table plus the flag. I don't think we're ready to act as a board on that, or the peace flag. I think so. If you withdraw that motion, then we can move ahead.
I will withdraw it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. So we'll try to get a meeting later on Tuesday to give people a little bit more time and to take action on this. Mr. Zoll, I understand you have to leave. We did talk about perhaps giving the opportunity for public comment. Again, it's not typically what we do. It's not on the agenda, but if the members want to try to do it for a short period of time, in addition to, again, November 28th, we can do that. So is that the will of the board at this point? Mr. Zoll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I think, we've certainly heard from a lot of residents already by email and by phone. Given that it's 12, that Mr. Wells is already not with us, that I need to leave here shortly. I think it would be a disservice to folks if they were speaking now, if they're only speaking to 3 members. I would remind folks that they can write to us by accessing the Town of Milton website, townofmilton.org. And our email addresses are posted there if they have thoughts about it. And I would suggest that if we post a meeting for Tuesday, that we post for Citizen Speak. I believe that you had the right order here of having our discussion and then having a Citizen Speak afterwards. But I would be open to change it. But I think having that Citizen Speak instead on the Tuesday meeting, particularly if it's at 5 o'clock, I know many people, including members of Milton Muslim Neighbors and some of my Jewish friends, that were not able to join this meeting because of the timing. 5 o'clock might give them a little bit more flexibility and allow for a few more folks. I would also ask that if we do have a Citizen Speak on next Tuesday, that we follow the typical Citizen Speak rules.
So given, it's a good point that Mr. Wells is not here and you won't be here and you won't get the benefit of the Citizen Speak, and that's not typically done, and we could actually put it on the agenda for Tuesday. I find that a compelling way forward for us. Other comments or questions? Ms. Musto.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we do that, I'm wondering if we would have some flexibility and the time that people could speak, given that there are a lot of people on this particular call, in case they do want to speak. I know we usually do the 21 minutes, but I'm wondering if we would have some flexibility in expanding that a bit if needed.
So under the law, we don't. We get if we change Citizen Speak, then if we're not consistent in our Citizen Speak, both in the time for the total amount and the time for each individual, if we change that for one or for more than one or for one particular meeting, as I understand it, it gets us into an issue under the law. So we can double check that, and if we can expand it, we can. But as my understanding is that under the law as it currently is, and as of last February, I can't remember the case that came out, we really need to be consistent in our public comment. Doesn't mean we can't, people can't show up for, we have meetings, we have several meetings, people can show up and there are times when we don't have a full complement of public commenters. Other comments or questions? So do we have a consensus that we're gonna try for a meeting at 5 on Tuesday, we'll include public comment, and, we will go from there. I see aggressive consensus by members. So, with that, we have no more items on the agenda. Oh, Mr. Joel.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. We're hybrid, so it's a roll call vote. All those in favor, Ms. Bradley,
Yes.
Ms. Musto,
Yes.
Mr. Zoll,
Yes.
and Mr. Zulish, yes. Thank you, everyone. And thank you all who have
Thank you.
attended and listened and commented and contributed to our discussion.
Thank you.